Right, freedom of speech, freedom of worship, democracy, the rule of law, equal rights, regardless of race, sex or sexuality. David Cameron says this is what defines us as a society. To belong here is to believe these things. So, what happens when those values clash? Should we tolerate the intolerant? He's basically trying to root out bigotry here, Peter Hitchens. We've got plenty of homegrown bigots, though, haven't we?
Oh, we have plenty of homegrown bigots, but I just take exception to a number of things that he says. The idea of muscular liberalism, for instance, it's like rigid jelly or an angry whelp. It's just something that doesn't happen. Liberalism is by its nature not muscular. And the other thing is he seems to define Britishness as a form of political correctness. You can't live here unless you sign up to equality and diversity, rather than you can't live here unless you accept that the Christian religion is our prime source of morality and law. But on the basics, which seems to me to be a much better basis.
On the basics, we can sign up to like equality by race, equality by sexuality, equality by gender, a belief in democracy, or should we tolerate those who don't believe any of those
toleration and equality are two different things. Toleration, apart from anything else, implies disapproval. I tolerate you. I don't like what you do. I tolerate you because I'm a civilized person who's prepared to share my society with you, even though I don't like you. So it's not the same thing.
I can't know. One man's intolerance is another's deeply held belief. We know that from this programme.
Absolutely, but I think the very possibility of being liberal, the very possibility of holding any belief has to be the thing that grounds it. And that means that there's certain forms of belief which destroy that, which we cannot tolerate.
Like?
Well, fascism, all manner of sort of reductive philosophies.
What is called Islamism, for example?
Well, certain elements, certain strains of certain interpretations, yeah, absolutely.
When you say not tolerate, do you mean make illegal? Prevent them from speaking, ban their organisations?
Yes, absolutely.
So you
but I would say the same about Christians. But I would say the same about Christians. I would say the same about... I think if you...
But freedom of speech, where does that come in?
But you have to... If the thing that you're saying is actually undermining the notion of speech itself, you know, if you're saying, for example, say you're a fascist and you go, well, Jews aren't really people, right? You're undermining an entire group of people and reducing them to the inhuman. It's self-refuting.
Well, Baroness Asher, let me put something else, if I may, that David Cameron said, which is really interesting in this speech. And he's not the first leading politician to express these sentiments. I mean, he's gone further with this phrase muscular and aggressive, but it could have been a speech by Tony Blair or David Blunkett or John Reid. It's been endorsed by David Blunkett, for example. And he said, when a white person holds objectionable views, racism, for example, we rightly condemn them. But when equally unacceptable views or practices have come from someone who isn't white, we've been too cautious, frankly, even fearful to stand up to them. Do you think there is any validity in that?
I think that this is an argument that I did have with David Blunkett when he started talking about community cohesion. I think, of course, we have to counter injustice wherever we see it. What worries me is the assumption that it's only Muslims who have practices that go against women.
Bigots come in all shapes and sizes and creeds and credos. This is the thing.
To define a whole people by their faith, the idea that, you know, as an Iranian, I can't celebrate Nowruz, which dates back 2,500 years, just because I'm a Muslim, is absolutely crazy. Just as is the idea that because I'm a Muslim, I'm an extremist. We need to get out of these labels.
Sorry, can I just add to that? And indeed, one of the major fundamentalisms at work in British culture today is atheist fundamentalism, not simply religious fundamentalism. Because atheist fundamentalism is even more dangerous to some degree because it actually denies the existence of a person.
Well, you're going to make that illegal, or what? I mean, what are you doing here, Connor?
I don't want to make it illegal.
Well, let's speak. I mean, let's speak to Abu Raya, who's here from Muslims Against Crusades, formerly Islam for UK, which was banned.
That's not correct. No.
No, what's not correct?
that were formerly Islam for UK.
Were you ever in that?
No.
Okay. Were you in
Our organisation is called
Al-Muhajirun? Were you in Al-Muhajirun?
Our organisation is called Muslims Against Crusade.
All right. Well, Islam for UK and Al-Muhajirun were both banned. So you know, as a government would have it, so bad they banned them twice, frankly. And
where did the freedom go there?
Yeah. Where did the freedom go?
Exactly.
That's your question.
It's oxymoron here.
Where's your freedom to burn poppies? Is that what you're saying?
Islamically, it's allowed for me to burn poppies, or for any number. The issue is more bigger thing. We understand that the war against Islam and Muslims, David Cameron is the two-headed snake in charge of the crusade against Islam and Muslims in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Islam does not allow you to disrespect other people. Absolutely not.
Well, can I just say,
he also disagrees with killing innocent Muslims.
There is a rider here. There is a rider. Most Muslims in this country think you are an utter embarrassment.
Why is that? Because we call for the Sharia, we call for a better way of life, a superior way of life. Then the quagmire we face here today, we have recession, we have colleagues of David Cameron stealing all the money. They have gardeners on second page.
You can have your own way of life.
We have a superior way of life.
Wait a minute. This is what this speech is all about. Are other Muslims doing enough to condemn people like him?
Of course they are. Of course. I mean, this is the problem. That we do have our own debates. And I am perfectly willing to have a debate with you on Quranic base. I teach Islamic law, so I know what I'm talking about.
I should think that we should debate with people on our level. This is someone obviously clearly not practicing Islam. She says she's a Muslim, but she's obviously very...
I'm sorry, you are not...
She's not covered or anything like that.
Excuse
the basic
me,
fundamentals of Islam...
Islam is not
anyway,
a
going
performance.
back to the...
You don't believe in democracy, right?
Clearly not. I'm a Muslim.
Right,
Excuse me.
It's at loggerheads with
Excuse me.
Islam.
Right, Baroness, if I may, Connor, you at the beginning you said we have to be wary of people who have views like this, stoning women, stoning homosexuals, stoning adulteresses. What should we do about people like our friend here?
I think we should give them free sponsorship to go to university and study theology.
I think we should listen to them very carefully. I think we should listen to them very carefully. We need to know this is what they think. If we suppress them, if we say you're banned, we won't find out.
But they're on the fringe, but they are what...
Then they will remain on the fringe if we find out what it is that they think. Islam is an enormously powerful political project which would change this country irrevocably if it became... Hang on a second.
Let me say something.
Hang on a second, let Peter finish.
You think we're on the fringe, we're not on the fringe.
It's an enormously powerful political project which would change this country irrevocably if it became the majority religion. You will keep interrupting, you Muslims. Of course they are. Islam is a proselytizing religion which believes the whole world should be Muslim. And they would like this country to be Muslim. If we want to find out... Of course you would. If you want to find out what they think, let them speak, and then you can discover you won't like it.
I will let you speak, and I will come back to you in 1 second, but I think it's on that point, don't worry.
We're not on the fringe.
Hold that thought. You believe you have the truth.
Religion in this country. Even your show said that English women who are embracing Islam in their hundreds, so therefore you can't say we're on the fringe.
Right.
We're over 8 million in this country.
Mohammed from the Muslim Public Affairs Committee, what about this accusation that extremist views, and most people think that Abu's views are right on the edge, really extreme, and many people, Muslims, find what he is saying utterly offensive. What about this accusation that Muslim communities are not doing enough to condemn people like him?
Well, to be honest,
he says that because they agree with him.
No, Muslim community is not doing enough. Absolutely not true. To be honest, a classic case in point is some time ago in Luton, when Al-Muhajirun were visiting Luton, a city. All the Muslims came out onto the streets to tell them that they were not welcome on our streets. They don't represent the Muslim view.
They don't represent the Muslim view.
That's right.
And David Cameron seems to think that's not articulated enough.
I mean, David Cameron is another story altogether. I would accuse David Cameron, in his own words, of passive tolerance. You know, his speech came on a day when the EDL, you know, an extreme...
English Defence League.
Yeah, an extreme far-right threat that is threatening, and it poses a great danger to everybody in this country. You know, they're speaking of...
Are they not a fringe as well? I mean, who poses the greatest...
They certainly are, but...
Well, who poses the greatest danger? Our friend here, Abu, or the EDL, for example, or are they equal?
See, freedom of speech is, you know, a detailed thing. You've got to look at the full thing in detail. I mean, you've got one case where you can hear a person's views. It is another thing to go out, let them to go out onto the streets and cause criminal damage, to actually, you know, incite racial hatred, religious hatred, and fear.
So, Alex Plummer, what do you think? We have to. I mean, if we stopped tolerating the intolerant, we'd lose half our guests on this programme.
I think you're absolutely right. I think a great characteristic of British society down the centuries has been its willingness to accept people for what they are, and so that tolerance is incredibly important. But our friend here says that at the fringe, or he's not at the extreme, he's not at the fringe. But what I worry about, this is an intelligent man, we can tell from the way he articulates what he thinks. However, what I worry about is there are much less intelligent Islamic followers, Muslims in this country, who listen to what he says and are led down a path of extremism which could cause tremendous trouble. And indeed, the victims of the 7/7 bombers, the victims of 9/11, they're the people I fear for, the families of those people who've been killed because of that extreme view.
And members of these groups have expressed support for those terrorists, yeah.
And the idea that the British government should be supporting or providing finance to groups, Islamic groups, which filter down into some of this extreme area is absolutely worrying. I think David Cameron was absolutely right to say that finance should be cut off.
Okay, I think...
One second, Mohammed. You haven't had any money, obviously.
Of course, our organisation does not work for the government and does not require any money.
There's a surprise.
We need the youth to join our side anyway. But what I say to you, you too support the terrorists inside Iraq and Afghanistan. You support the pirate state of Israel.
How do you know I do?
Yeah, because
how do you know who I support?
So why are you against us when we paraded when the parade came to Luton or in Barking that the Muslims came out? Why are you against that?
And who defines them as terrorists?
The question that we all should appreciate is that who lays down the boundaries of intolerant and tolerant?
Yes.
Surely, is it man, weak, limited, needy, or is it Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the heavens and the earth?
But it's certainly not you.
I'm intolerant. I'm intolerant to promiscuity. Yes. I'm intolerant to alcohol.
Homosexuality.
Adultery. The pirate state of Israel. All the soldiers that are killing Muslims. I'm intolerant to all of that.
Nakedness, the way people dress and all that stuff.
Obviously, if you come out in York naked, then obviously I'm intolerant towards that. They need to get their clothes back from the house.
Who gives you the right
He's got
to
every
tell
right.
me,
Why can't I
to tell me as a Muslim...
Where did the freedom of speech go there?
No.
Well, give the Baroness a little bit of freedom of speech.
Who gives you the right to tell me whether I am a good Muslim or not? Because of your eyes. You have no right to do that. You have no Quranic right to do that.
It's quite clear by the teaching of the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we judge from their apparent, and the fundamentals of Islam you need to stick by.
God does not judge by appearances. Come on.
I'm sorry to say, you're not the main issue. The main issue is that the war that's going to take place. We need to address that.
Peter, 1 second. Anthony, writer. How relaxed should we be? Should we exert some muscular liberalism on Abu here? I don't mean to haul him out of the studio or anything like that.
We'd like to see that.
Should we... exactly. But should we be more aggressive about these views and should we be firmer and stronger proponents of liberalism, or should we just be kind of relaxed about all this, what he's saying, and just let him say it?
Well, I'm a bit confused about why we're sort of focusing on, say, Islam. For example, in Catholicism...
Because David Cameron did yesterday.
Yeah. But say, why is David Cameron also not looking at the extremists in Catholicism and Judaism? Now, I'm very tolerant towards Judaism. I am Jewish. That's probably why. But I'm also tolerant to the vast majority of Islamic thinking. I think we should be vigilant against extremism in any religion. Orthodoxy in Catholicism, for example, which sort of is anti-abortion or denies women's rights. Orthodoxy, say, the ultra-Zionists in Israel who deny, say, the rights for Palestinians. I think we should be vigilant towards people like that, but we shouldn't deny their right to speak, and we should be involved in debates like these are and sort out our arguments through debate.
But when he says, Peter, David Cameron, that he talks about this list of values, the British values, equality by race, sexuality and gender, a belief in democracy, things which signally, and Anthony points it out, there are many sections of society don't buy into. He says, to belong here is to believe in this.
Well, some
people reading some of your columns
It always used to make me laugh when George W. Bush would say about the Muslims, they hate our way of life. And I said, yeah, I hate our way of life, too. And in many ways, my views on some things coincide quite closely with yours. And I disapprove of a lot of the things which you won't tolerate. I disapprove, but I tolerate. I think that in a free society, people should be permitted to do these things. I will argue against them doing them, and I will argue very strongly for a society in which these things are discouraged, but I will not say I will not tolerate them. That's a distinction between me and you. And by tolerating you, which I think I should do, one of the things I do is I allow you to say quite openly just how intolerant you are and what a menace your ideas would be to our society if they became prevalent.
But there's a very good example here. If I may, I mean, it's a lively column, Peter. I mean, 2 years ago, you wrote in your column, we show tolerance to gays and we get tyranny in return. Now, Iqbal Sikrani, the former head of the MCB, said, homosexuality is not acceptable, civil partnerships are harmful to society. He got visited by the police for saying that.
Well, people do get visited by the police. The reason for that headline was an instance of a complicated adoption case in Scotland, where the grandparents had actually been told by the authorities that they wouldn't, if they espoused a view disapproving of homosexuality, then they would be forbidden to adopt their own grandchild. Now leave aside the issue of what you think about homosexuality. Telling people what to think goes far beyond the limits of a tolerant of free society.
You see what we're getting at here, but if you express views like that by the Cameron criteria, if I may coin a phrase, they don't belong here.
Well,
to believe these things is to belong here.
This is what Saida Varsi was talking about.
Baroness
Varsi, she said that there are that Islamophobia is becoming the one acceptable form of prejudice, which is okay. And it's okay because people don't see the debates within Islam, don't see the discussions that are going on. I actually think we should celebrate differences, not tolerate them. Let's recognise it and get on with it.
Godfrey Bloom from UKIP. If I may, Godfrey, you said a couple of years ago, famously, it was a few years back, famously, no self-respecting small businessman with a brain in the right place would ever employ a lady of childbearing age. Right.
Yeah, that's now received wisdom, isn't it? And if you look at the
hang on,
figures...
if a Muslim cleric said that, how would people react to him?
Well, I said that because of the...
And you're not a Muslim cleric.
I said that because of employment legislation being so heavily stacked against the employer when employing young women, which, incidentally, I'm in favour of, if the whole quote...
It's not embracing equality, is it? Do you belong here?
I'm a libertarian, and I believe that anybody should be able to say pretty much anything they like in a free society. And I believe that to be true, and I believe we are a very tolerant society, but we do have fundamental laws, which I think are right. If you're advocating people to go out and hang your next-door neighbour or shoot somebody, that is a fundamentally different thing. But I think this character over here is entitled to his view.
Peter Hitchens, or which one?
Peter Hitchens, of course, is very entitled to his view. And so is this gentleman here, perfectly entitled to his view. I think everybody in this room is entitled to their view. Where we can't tolerate, where we do have to close down, if he's advocating violence against somebody else in this room.
But neither you nor him, neither of you qualify. Neither of you qualify up to this liberal agenda.
No, well, Cameron is one of the most intolerant individuals.
Cameron
will sack you if you've got a bed and breakfast place of your own and you don't want homosexuals coming to stay. Cameron thinks that's wrong. Cameron is an unbelievably intolerant individual.
But don't you see that you are excluding the large body of potential workers from working? So you're actually cutting their livelihood.
No, you are, Baroness, by ridiculous rules and regulations in employment law. You are the one who I suggest when I looked you up earlier today have never had a real job in your life. You are the one with your ridiculous legislation.
Wait. Could I just challenge something which the Baroness said which went unchallenged?
Okay, yes.
Use of the word Islamophobia.
Yes.
As if those of us who look at Islam and say we don't actually want this country to be an Islamic country and be governed by Islamic rules, are in some cases, in some way governed by an irrational fear. On the contrary, or a prejudice. On the contrary, it's a post-judice. We've looked at Islam. We don't like its precepts. We don't want them here because we prefer...
We don't want them here?
Prefer a Christian... We don't want the precepts of it. We don't want... No, hang on, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I said we don't want the precepts.
Precepts.
The precepts. I'm not going to be misquoted in that fashion.
Fair enough.
We do not want the precepts. That is absolutely clear. We got that clear now.
We got it clear.
Right. Nothing to do with not wanting Muslims here. Any kind of twisted rubbish like that. I did not say that. I do not think it.
Peter, you've made that clear.
Right, OK. We do not want... No, we do get, people with conservative views do get their views twisted in broadcast arenas, and we do need to be clear when that happens.
Peter has made that absolutely clear.
It's one of our students.
So let him finish,
when it happens, what I'm saying here is we do not want the precepts of Islam here because we do not want to live in an Islamic society. That is a rational position. It is not a phobia and can't be classified as some kind of mental illness. It is a perfectly reasonable position to take, and people who want to take part in a civilized discussion should not classify the opinions of their opponents as phobias. They should take them on with reason, fact and logic, especially academics and professionals.
Peter, thank you. Audience, yes.
I'm extremely proud to be part of a very multicultural family, you know, Nigerian brother-in-law, Iranian stepfather who is Muslim, and I think that, you know, he'll celebrate Christmas with us, I can celebrate Iranian New Year, and I love finding out about the different cultures, and we need that as a society to have the influence.
Yes, sir, good morning.
Just going back a little,
yeah.
You mentioned the fundamental right to free speech, but where's the free speech of the girls in the Khyber Pass who've been banned from going to school, who've had their schools mortared? Where's their fundamental right to free speech gone?
If you talk about Afghanistan, Afghanistan was facing civil war at that time, and
no, this is happening now.
Even now, there's war going on in Iraq and Afghanistan. So therefore, we protect our women. It's okay for you to kill, bomb, gas, or rape even children and women and so on. So that's why the school is, even in this country, when the war was taking place, the schools were closed. So I don't know what your argument is. But going back to the argument about David Cameron, there is a clash between civilization, between truth and falsehood. So therefore, it's at loggerheads, and David Cameron, Obama are in the head of one of them, and on the other side is Sheikh Osama bin Laden. So therefore, the Muslims will all automatically follow the Muslim leader.
Mohammed.
Well, according to David Cameron's views, I think he considers Osama bin Laden to be a politician anyway. You know, in his words, I'll quote him. He said, Islamic extremism is a form of political ideology. So I ask him, does he consider Osama bin Laden to be a politician, or does he consider Sharia law to be completely unacceptable? I don't think there's a clash of civilizations. I'm Bradford born and bred. Recently, when the EDL came to Bradford in August, the whole of Bradford, all sections of the community, we had several priests, we had several imams, we had people of no faith, we had, you know, people from all sectors coming together to try and figure out a way to deal with that issue, and they dealt with it very successfully.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Thank you. Thank you all. We're going to leave that one. And you can join in that debate by logging on to bbc.co.uk/thebigquestions and following the links to our message board.